I'm a colossal Sonic the Hedgehog fan, blah blah blah. I've adored the franchise since I was conceived. You get the idea by now. With July being Sonic Month on my channel and this being the first episode of the very first Sonic Month, I wanted to do something special to kick things off. Sega have marked 2024 the year of Shadow, and with how popular the character has become within the fanbase and beyond, I thought a deep dive into the Shadow the Hedgehog Iceberg was in order. I've done several icebergs on the channel by now, and I'm sure you're familiar with the concept, but just in case you aren't, entries higher up in the iceberg are more well known, but the deeper we dive, they begin to become more obscure and more niche. This particular iceberg image focuses mainly on the 2005 game and was created by Reddit user Freelance Ottoman, so all credit goes to them and their original post will be linked in the description. Shadow has yet to receive his own iceberg explanation that I could find, so I wanted to make sure I really did my research and got everything right, but just in case I didn't, please let me know in the comments. Alright, I told myself I wouldn't have a lengthy intro this time, so let's just get into it. Grab yourself a snack and a drink and pop in your headphones as we take a deep dive into the Shadow the Hedgehog Iceberg. So the first layer has a lot of quotes that have become memes among fans over the years, so I'll explain those in their context altogether.
Find the computer room!
Is a line spoken by Vector the Crocodile in the mission select screen during the Cosmic Fall stage. Should the player choose the hero mission, Vector becomes Shadow's companion throughout the level and tasks the player with locating the Ark's computer room. During the Glyphic Canyon stage's hero mission, Knuckles accompanies Shadow. Tornadoes appear throughout the level and are used as a mode of transportation. Upon entering a tornado, Knuckles exclaims,
Help! We're being sucked in!
The opening cutscene of Circus Park shows Shadow looking for the fourth of the 7 Chaos Emeralds. The game is infamous for its higher age rating and really pushed to be as edgy and mature as possible, leading to an absurd amount of swearing for a Sonic game. The prime example of this is the first line spoken by Shadow during this cutscene, in which he states,
"Where's that damn 4th Chaos Emerald?"
The Sonic series' main armed forces are known as GUN, or GUN, for Guardian Units of Nations. A GUN soldier from within the Lost Impact stage can be heard on a number of occasions saying,
"Mr. Yuji Naka is all right,"
in reference to the game's creator and Shadow the Hedgehog's producer, Yuji Naka. Shadow the Hedgehog does have a 2-player battle mode, however it is possible for a second player to aid Shadow in the main campaign, and it's as easy as plugging in a second controller and joining in. As long as the level's companion is part of the hero endings such as Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, and even Maria Robotnik, player 2 is able to fully control them for the entirety of the stage. If you've played the game, you already know, but taking the darker path throughout the game's many required playthroughs sees Shadow fight and, yes, kill Sonic and Dr. Eggman. You can even see what looks like Shadow killing Sonic in the game's opening cinematic. Obviously, these endings aren't the official canon conclusion of the game, seeing that both characters appear several more times throughout the series. In order to unlock a secret door found in each stage of the game, the player must locate 5 keys to open it. And behind some of these doors are these crates with Shadow's silhouette on them that can only be opened upon completing missions in the final levels. Upon opening them, 6 new weapons can be unlocked, and these 6 weapons are the Egg Vacuum, based off of Sega's Billy Hatcher series that sucks up rings and small enemies, the Heal Cannon that refills the health gauges of gun soldiers and aliens and befriends them, the Omochao gun that fires bullets shaped like Omochao's head and ricochets off walls and enemies, the Samurai Blade that I think speaks for itself, the Satellite Gun which locks onto targets and fires a f***ing sky beam, and the Shadow Rifle, a one-hit kill weapon modeled after Shadow and even has his symbol on it.
Damn, not here.
Initially, Sega wanted Shadow to be much darker. Early builds of the game saw gun soldiers dying in pools of red blood, more swearing, and even Maria's full, uncut, on-screen death. During the game's production, the ESRB would introduce the E10 Plus rating, and Sega believed that compromising some of the game's early edge for the sake of broadening its demographic was a fair trade, so most of the darker content was cut. Sonic Adventure saw the series' first major outing to feature voice actors for each character. The English-speaking cast would stay with the series throughout the release of Sonic Heroes, only to be replaced by an entirely new crew of actors who would simultaneously voice the characters in the 4Kids anime Sonic X, starting with Shadow the Hedgehog. The new cast saw fan-favorite voice artists Jason Griffith and Mike Pollock portraying both Sonic and Shadow.
Hey, Shadow! Long time no see! I don't know why, but this place seems so familiar.
And Dr. Eggman, respectively.
If you refuse to obey me, then you'll just have to deal with my finest creation yet!
Pollock continues to voice Eggman to this day and likely will for the foreseeable future. During the episode Shadow DLC for Sonic Forces, Shadow must face off against the game's antagonist, Infinite, and following their battle, a cutscene plays that depicts Shadow using the same fight choreography that he uses on the Black Arms in the opening cinematic of his own game. We talked about Shadow's co-op mode in the main campaign and how Maria is playable, which means yes, Maria is able to kill gun soldiers, but only within very close proximity of them. Unrelated to this entry, but Shadow the Hedgehog marks Maria's only playable appearance and the first playable female human character in the series to date. To promote the release of Shadow the Hedgehog in Japan, Sega partnered with Japanese hip-hop group M-Flow to remix their song Tripod Baby. The remix featured voice clips from the game and would be used in some of its marketing. The song's music video even saw Shadow breakdancing, which is... Alright, now I've seen everything. After Sonic Heroes released in 2004, Sega wasn't quite sure what to do with or where to take their flagship franchise next. So, taking to social media, Sega asked fans to vote on their pick for a character that they would like to see receive their own spin-off title, and Shadow won by a pretty decent margin. Even as far back as the 90s, kids wrote to Sega and Sonic Team asking to give Sonic a gun, and creator Yuji Naka really took this to heart. Seeing the rise in popularity of first-person shooters at the time, Naka felt the best way to capitalize on the market was by introducing firearms to the Sonic series. To better fit the game's darker tone, Sonic Team looked at movies like Constantine and Terminator to build its world. The branching pathways element was one that the team wanted to introduce into Sonic Adventure 2, but couldn't due to time constraints. So it was brought into Shadow the Hedgehog and allowed for 326 different ways to complete the storyline. Like we talked about earlier, Sonic Team wanted a T for teen rating for Shadow, but went with the newly introduced E10 Plus rating and cut most of the game's darker material. Something else that's worth noting is Shadow the Hedgehog uses the same engine and models from Sonic Heroes, and had a development cycle of right around a year, which shows how quickly Sonic Team wanted to get this game out. Obviously, this is just the TLDR of Shadow's development, so if you really wanted to dig into the development history of Shadow the Hedgehog, I recommend checking out sonicretro.org's development process article, which I will have linked in the description. Following Shadow's supposed death and his surprising return in Sonic Heroes, it was left unclear how he survived or if he survived his fall from space at the end of Sonic Adventure 2. What further fed this confusion to the fanbase and even Shadow himself was the creation of Shadow androids, almost perfect replicas of the original Shadow created to serve Dr. Eggman. More of these androids can be found in the game's multiplayer battle mode, but with much different appearances such as metallic skin, black eyes, and mechanical red pupils. There are a few other palette swaps, but you get the idea. They look like Shadow, but they aren't Shadow. Let's move on.
Chaos Control!
In one of the unintentionally funniest moments from the game's campaign, the actual president of the real United States on his desk in the real Oval Office has a framed photo of Sonic and Shadow the Hedgehog. This has got to be one of the most ridiculous moments in the Sonic series, and it's always hilarious seeing reactions to it. Sega partnered with Newbie Tech in anticipation for Shadow's release in 2005 to create this chunky, yet admittedly still very cool looking wired controller exclusive to the PlayStation 2. It's apparently pretty rare, and listings for it online run anywhere from $170 to $200. This less infamous quote of Sonic's is the result of a translation error from Japanese to English. For context, after Shadow completes the hero mission of Iron Jungle, Sonic appears on one of Tails' spacecrafts to tell Shadow that the Black Arms are on their way to the space colony Ark, and that they need to go and stop them. With that in mind, it makes more sense that the line is supposed to read, "They're on their way to the Ark," so I guess that means we're going too. Several characters featured in Shadow the Hedgehog make an appearance in Sonic's Archie Comics run. One in particular is the Gun Commander, a character we'll be exploring more later on. In simple terms, the commander oversees operations for the Guardian units of nations to protect the United Federation from outside threats, essentially the same role he plays in the game. He appears a number of times throughout the comics and is actually the one in charge of Team Dark, which consists of Shadow, Rouge, and Omega. Another character that appears in the Archie Comics is, you guessed it, Maria Robotnik. We see her mostly in flashbacks, but we get more information on her and her time with Shadow. I mean, this just looks so dope. Like, I don't really know what else to say other than that. Like, these stickers are decals for the Nintendo GameCube, and they're awesome. That's all that I have to say. Moving on. I'll be so honest, I had no idea about this one going in, but Sean Schimmel, the adult voice of Goku in Dragon Ball's English dub, along with the Pokemon Lucario and several other anime characters, plays Black Doom in Shadow the Hedgehog. Go for it.
Carlos, Ryan, and Roy. Black Doom says his regards.
Unfortunately, he has gone on record saying that he will likely not be returning to voice the character in this year's Sonic X Shadow Generations, even after having re-auditioned for the role. Shadow the Hedgehog, like most Sonic games, is known to vary in quality depending on the platform it's played on. The PlayStation 2 port in particular is believed to be the worst in terms of performance, with a number of technical issues and bugs, and with the cooperative campaign mode seemingly unavailable in the Xbox port, the GameCube is colloquially considered the definitive version to play for those wishing to experience the game. I grew up on the PS2 version and yeah, after revisiting it over the years, I'm understanding the complaints. So if you're wanting to try the game out for the first time or just want to play the best version of it, I would recommend the GameCube.
You might look like me, but I know you're just a fake.
If you wait 8 minutes into the final boss fight against Devil Doom, you'll hear a voice transmission from Dr. Eggman to Shadow explaining what happened to him after the events of Sonic Adventure 2.
Shadow, can you hear me? This might be the last chance I have to speak to you, so what I said about having created you, it was all a lie. Everyone thought you died during that horrible incident, but I rescued you with one of my robots. You'd lost your memory, that's all. You really are the ultimate life form my grandfather created.
So there we have it. The Shadow that appears in the series from Heroes on is, in fact, the real Shadow the Hedgehog. When bringing the Gun Commander to the Archie comics, Sonic writer Ian Flynn gave the character the name Abraham Tower. He said that he got the name Abraham from powerful figures like Abraham Lincoln or Abraham from the Bible. And Tower is just from the fact that he is a towering figure in the United Federation. Nintendo's futuristic racing title F-Zero features 2 vehicles entitled the Black Bull and the Blue Falcon. How does this relate to Shadow the Hedgehog? The game features 2 boss fights named after the F-Zero vehicles, Black Bull in Westopolis and Blue Falcon on the Space Colony Arc. What makes this entry even more interesting is that Nintendo, Namco, and Sega all worked together on 2003's F-Zero GX for the GameCube. The game even runs on the same engine as Super Monkey Ball. Sega appeared at E3 in 2005, bringing Shadow the Hedgehog with them in more ways than one. Along with a trial demo of the game, this statue of the character was present at the convention and several fans and attendees took some pretty funny pictures with it. You can even see it in the background of the Sonic Central. God, Sega had the strangest marketing campaign for this game. In 2005, Sega sponsored a wrestling tour in Japan that saw Shadow making a huge presence. An official Shadow mascot would make appearances at these events with a giant mural of the character painted on the wrestling mat. During breaks, the mascot would come out and wave to the audience as the announcer explained the then upcoming game. It wasn't anything crazy, but why does Sega never talk about this? Why has this partnership faded into obscurity? At one of these matches, a fighter was injured so badly that a pretty large amount of blood could be seen all over the wrestling mat that Shadow was painted on, and yeah, you can probably connect the dots. Shadow the Hedgehog Flash was a free-to-play online game released in October of 2005. The game was a 2D side-scroller that functioned almost exactly the same as the full title. Shadow would take on the Black Arms using various firearms and collect rings, with the end goal being to reach the goal ring. The biggest differences outside of the side-scroller aspect were that gun soldiers could be killed, however they wouldn't cause Shadow to take damage upon impact while the Black Arms would. There weren't any alternate paths to take such as the Hero in Dark missions, and it only featured 1 level with 2 acts. Obviously, with the shutdown of Adobe Flash Player, the game can no longer be played through Sega officially, but it can still be found online. I actually remember playing this game a ton as a kid, and as much flack as Shadow the Hedgehog's console release got and still gets, I thought it was pretty cool. Let me know if you remember playing it and what you thought.
Nobody gets in my way.
The Walk of Game was a play on the Hollywood Walk of Fame that saw a number of gaming icons recognized for their achievement in San Francisco, California. The exhibit opened in 2005 and saw Sonic recognized with his own star with a mascot of the character appearing at the event for photo ops. Sonic series director Takashi Iizuka took to the stage with Sonic himself to show his gratitude for the award and to announce the next major Sonic title, Shadow the Hedgehog. Something interesting that I haven't found anywhere else is that IGN claims that the game's title was announced as Sonic the Hedgehog 3 Shadow the Hedgehog. And I'm not really sure what this means or what it would have meant. Maybe Shadow was originally going to be the 3rd adventure title. Maybe it was a miscommunication. I'm just not sure. I just found that interesting. The Sonic series is no stranger to cursing. This could have a whole video all to itself, and it actually does. Go check out Chowmix's video on swearing in the Sonic series. But for the sake of relevance, I'll be sticking to any games preceding Shadow the Hedgehog. In the Japanese version of Sonic Adventure, Sonic's voice actor snuck in a couple of profane lines in English.
Done it! Shoot!
I mean, he could have said shoot, but And in Sonic Adventure 2's pre-release demo, the opening cutscene saw one of the gun soldiers letting out a "what the hell?" as Sonic escapes captivity. However, this was changed for the game's final release. There are a few more examples throughout the series, such as in soundtracks, later series entries, or in other forms of Sonic media, and I won't go super in-depth with those here. Again, you can check out Chowmix's video if you want to know more about that. Just know that Sonic and his friends aren't afraid to have a bit of a sailor mouth. I mean, if you consider hell and damn serious swear words, I don't, but let's just move on. Sonic's sister series, Nights into Dreams, features a villain by the name of Wiseman the Wicked. Just looking at him, you can already tell that Black Doom's design likely took inspiration from the Knights villain. Even down to their abilities and connection to the game's protagonist, both share a blood relation to the main character and are able to create small creatures that function as an extra set of eyes for them. Would it technically be considered recycling since Sonic Team worked on both of these titles? Yes. Yes, it would. This video by Sewer56 shows a beta level by the name of STG9900, or Stage 9900. It features a comically large Hot Wheels-esque loop that I'm assuming was used to test the game's physics, along with several large platforms and unused textures. This is obviously a test level used in the game's beta phase. Shadow the Hedgehog was hilariously nominated for Family Game of the Year at the Golden Joystick Awards in 2006. How Shadow the Hedgehog ever got nominated for a Family Game Award is beyond me, but here we are. Rather unsurprisingly, it lost out to Nintendogs on the Nintendo DS. We can all agree that Shadow was a needlessly edgy entry in the Sonic series, and in all honesty, it doesn't really make a lot of sense most of the time. That's exactly what animator Roger Vanderwide thought when he, along with a friend of his by the name of AA, put together a parody animation that they called The Suffering Doomed Shadow Show. This Newgrounds animation, released in February 2007, oh my god, this video is almost old enough to vote, closely followed the plot of the game and mocked the aspects that were poorly received. It's very much in the style of the Sonic Shorts, a set of fan-made Sonic parody animations released throughout the late 2000s and early 2010s that are now beloved pieces of Sonic media amongst fans. The whole animation can easily be found on YouTube. When Sega was gunning for a T for T rating, one of the aspects that would have been featured in the game was a glimpse at Maria Robotnik's death at the hands of Gun. After the E10 Plus rating was decided upon, this cutscene was dropped. In 2010, YouTuber XXX Sonic Music XXX uploaded a screen recording of Maria's official death scene from an early build of the game. It doesn't show anything in great detail, there's no blood or fatal wound shown, but this is at least part of the cutscene. And there we have it, another iceberg in the books. This has been the Shadow the Hedgehog Iceberg. I know this one is shorter than all my other icebergs, but it was still really fun to put this together for the first Sonic month. Another special thanks to Reddit user Freelance Ottoman for creating the original iceberg image, and I will have that linked in the description. I hope you're enjoying Sonic month so far. I know I definitely am. The year of Shadow is upon us, and we still have a lot to look forward to with Sonic and Shadow Generations coming in October, and you know I'll be making a video for that, and Sonic Movie 3 coming in December, which I will also be making a video for. If you're enjoying my content, you want to see more, be sure to subscribe so that you never miss another upload, and maybe even consider becoming a patron over on my Patreon. It's a great way to support me and the channel, and you'll get some cool perks out of it, like early access to videos, and you can even help me decide on future uploads. And I think that's going to do it for this one. I've been Evan. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a happy birthday, and please sleep tight.